But now it is public knowledge that the U.S. has ties with terrorist groups. Anthony Gucciardi of StoryLeak joins me in the studio with more on that.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So tell me, who are we fighting with?
Well, the fact of the matter is it used to be a conspiracy theory that Obama and his handlers were arming the Syrian rebels, which are linked up with Al-Qaeda, admittedly, and they go around flying Al-Qaeda flags. But now it is public knowledge. It is on public record that we are funding directly Al-Qaeda. And more so, we're actually funding the Syrian rebels who likely carried out, in fact, they did carry out the chemical attacks in order to launch war into Syria. So in fact, we have one piece here as well from The Independent. Does Obama know he's fighting an Al-Qaeda side? And it says, he's fought for the very first time in history, the United States will be on the same side as Al-Qaeda. It goes on to say the men who destroyed so many thousands on 9/11 will be fighting alongside the very nation whose innocents so cruelly murdered almost exactly 12 years ago. So what it comes down to now is, once again, we've seen this correlation where we're called conspiracy theorists, we're called crazy for saying that we're funding Al-Qaeda now and we're going with Al-Qaeda and aiding the Syrian rebels against Assad, against the regime that now the Syrian rebels are trying to destroy. But then, of course, a little bit later, about several months, 8, 9, 10 months later, the mainstream media now pushes it as breaking news. And you will see on this document it has 51,000 Facebook shares. That means it's been seen by probably millions of people, 4,000 tweets. So what that comes down to is, it's like when we say it, it's crazy. But when the mainstream media says it, we all better bow down and just immediately show everyone, oh my gosh, it's true. And they're surprised every time.
Exactly.
It's a pattern over and over again, and we're calling it 10, 12 months before almost every single time. And then the mainstream media is forced to admit we were right and cover it as if it's an exclusive breaking news piece when we've already known about it.
Well, now we've seen this quite a few times throughout history where the allies become the bad guy, but then there are allies again, and we're seeing this again.
Let's go back to the 80s for a minute. The recently declassified CIA documents, one of the things I also covered with you guys, it comes out now, it turns out, that we aided Saddam, helped Saddam with the CIA and Reagan at the time, and I mentioned earlier on the Alex Jones program, everyone hails Reagan as kind of a demigod. And he did some good stuff, but of course he helped fund and get ready of these chemical attacks on Iran on behalf of Iraq, because they needed to solidify an Iraqi win over the war. So we've seen before launching these chemical attacks and helping to do so as a pretext for full-scale war. So what's happening now? It's the same exact pattern. And I also want to talk about this. Syrian rebels pledged loyalty to Al-Qaeda. And it says basically the rebels will go ahead and they'll join anybody at all, including Al-Qaeda, will help them to overthrow Assad. It doesn't matter if they're a terrorist organization. And then it also mentions that, yeah, the Western countries like the United States are funding all of this, and they're funding Al-Qaeda now directly because the Syrian rebels team up with them. They say, the rebels in Syria have one common enemy, Assad, and they will collaborate with any faction allowing them to topple his regime. Now, something interesting, you actually brought this up earlier, Leanne. I have to give you credit for that. Check out what Carney said. I don't have it here actually, but Carney said, we're not trying to topple the regime. We're not going in to topple the regime. You know, we're just going to try and maintain peace, like they said with Iraq. But look at that statement. Anything to topple his regime. Direct contradiction.
Yeah.
The Syrian rebels are telling it as it is because they don't care. They're absolute insane Al-Qaeda terrorists. They're going in to blow up everything. They're beheading Christians, Washington Times right here. They're beheading priests. They're burning Christian villages, innocents, using small knives. You know how specific and disgusting that is? Small little knives. It could be a butter knife to slice off priest's head to dozens of cheering crowd members from the Al-Qaeda/Syrian rebel group saying, yes, kill the priest. And they said that they basically, what they do is either you convert to a Muslim or whatever their distinctive Muslim culture is over there, or they kill you, or you pay a tax to where you get bankrupt and then they probably kill you anyway. That's what we're funding. That's who we're giving heavy weaponry. That's who we're saying are the good guys over there. And that's who now are working with Al-Qaeda on record, as they've now admitted. And how long have we been screaming about this? Some of the listeners are probably so tired of hearing about it, but it's just so important. And this is what's going to cause World War III. It's all about the Russian hot war right now, because they're backing Assad and we're backing the Syrian rebels.
It's just incredible. So are you going to do a full report on this video or something up on storyleak.com?
Yeah, definitely. I've done a few reports, and I've collaborated, syndicated off of Infowars.com a lot recently, but definitely more reports on this. Definitely how Syria is actually somewhat of a distraction, because even though it's such an important part, we're actually going in a hot war right now with Russia. No one's talking about this. The Russian media is talking about this because they actually, tell their citizens what's going on sometimes, because they see America completely different than us. But the foreign media, yeah, they're all over about how really this is a hot war with Russia. It was a proxy war, as The Independent and others have admitted, because we were funding the Syrian rebels versus the Russians funding Assad, and they were clashing. We actually had Israel go in and blow up missile caches which were belonging to the Russians in Syria. So it's turned into a hot war scenario. Russia has 160,000 troops at the ready with naval ships and aircrafts and everything like that, heavy bombers on the lines of Russia. So it's turning into a hot scenario. The only thing is it possible to defuse it, or are the elitist control freaks just so far gone that they're willing to risk it all?
Just amazing. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Apparently it's going to strike tomorrow, so.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if it's going to strike tomorrow, but something's definitely going to happen in the near future, whether it's good or bad. And hopefully it's not bad, but I do see this really as a hot World War III type scenario. If Obama is crazy enough to push forward with this, just say, here's Syrian rebels, have all the supplies you need, have all the weaponry you need, just go out and get Russia's Assad.
Well, Anthony, I hope you're wrong.
Me too. I hope I'm wrong too.
I'm not ready for World War III.
Me neither. Probably be drafted. They're trying to get women into the military now for the draft. They're trying to change it because it's supposed to be constitutional that women and men should be drafted as well.
Well, I'm going to donate a kidney or something and render myself unable. So thank you very much.
Yep, thanks for having me on.